Howdy folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am your host, the Mighty Bjorn, and today for you I have a review of Cyberpunk 2077. And oh boy, this is going to take a bit. I'm going to really dive one in here. I actually did play through the game. I did complete the game. This is actually game footage from, I believe, version 1.6. So people know where my review sits as a standpoint, as a baseline point, because as I'm doing this review, they're literally getting ready to do another patch, which is like 1.11. I keep seeing news for, but I am not going to do another playthrough of this game to get a review of patch 1.11. That being said, this probably won't be the only review of Cyberpunk I do. I will probably try to revisit this game a year from now. I'll dive into why as I sit here and talk about it. But let's start off with the dev is CD Projekt Red. The publisher is CD Projekt, so it's basically CD Projekt's whole project. It is done with the Red Engine 4. It was released on Windows PC, PlayStation 4, Stadia, and Xbox One, December 10th of 2020. I think it just recently got released on PlayStation 5 and Xbox One, or it's going to be released soon. I'm a little foggy on the PlayStation 5, Xbox One information that they have out there right now. All right, so basically it is a first-person action role-playing game. Yeah, it's a role-playing game. I've seen people call it something else. It's a role-playing game, just like they say on the website. It has its moments of being really interesting. You can either play the part of a male V or a female V. That is the character's, I guess you could say, identity, nickname, whatever, and essentially you are a mercenary. Now, there are some parts that you're kind of doing flashbacks and playing the part of Johnny Silverhand. As that goes, the story basis is you're pretty much set up to do a gig, and essentially it is like the gig, the robbery of the century. This is the big fat gig, and things go wildly wrong and out of control, and then that's really when the whole game starts. The first couple hours of the game is more or less an introduction to the game, teaching you how to play the game, different dialogue and things like that. And honestly, the first few hours of the game is very refined and very good, and I enjoyed it a lot. However, it's when the game really opens up to you is where I start getting disappointed with the game. And honestly, in my opinion, the game got pretty boring pretty quick. But I will dive on in here. I'll talk about the things I liked, the things I disliked, my beefs with the game, and if I feel it's worth it or not. Generally speaking, the graphics are just amazing. This is on an RTX 2070 on high graphics. The website says I could have played on Ultra, but I wanted to make sure that I had real solid performance straight through my playthrough, that I could get really good quality recordings to show for a review, and maybe any other additional videos I want to do, things of that nature. So this is on high, and honestly, it looked really good to me. When it comes to looks, right now that I'm aware of, there is nothing that makes this game second to none. For the quality of the graphics. It just looks amazing on the PC. Now, I've looked at some footage of PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One footage, and wow, I'm glad I didn't get it on console. Shooting mechanics, the combat mechanics, I'm a little mixed about. They're not perfectly great. What I would say is, if you're used to games like The Outer Worlds, like Fallout New Vegas, Skyrim, you're going to feel yourself at home here. It's very similar, but I do know some people find that quite difficult to use. It's not the best option out there when it comes to combat systems, but for what they achieved here, they actually did do a pretty good job. There's really nowhere else that they didn't really do it better than anyone else, but they didn't really do it worse than anyone else. I feel, it's better than, say, Fallout New Vegas or Fallout 4, but it's definitely on par with The Outer Worlds, I would say. Sounds are just great. I like the sounds. The guns sound meaty. You wanna stick your lips out and say "Let's rock" when you start blasting off with a machine gun and stuff like that. So the guns sound meaty. They sound impactful. Things of that nature. The car models just look amazing. They look so sci-fi. Some of them are ridiculous sci-fi that they don't even have real windshields. Instead, what you're doing is you're looking at an area where your windshield would be, and essentially it's more or less like a monitor system. It's really hard to explain without you actually seeing it yourself. Also, the interiors of the models of the cars are just out of this world. I mean, they look realistic. They did a great job when it came to the cars. They look great. They feel great. The driving can feel a little wonky at times, especially with the keyboard and mouse, but that's neither here nor there. We're just talking the car models, how they look, how they feel, stuff of that nature. The atmosphere, generally speaking, the atmosphere just looks great. You got your slummy areas. You got the big city area, which just looks like a live metropolis. The buildings look cool. There's graffiti on some of the buildings. The highway looks like a highway. Roads look like roads. You got red lights and the whole 9 yards. And it just looks great, especially from a distance. You know, when you're on the outskirts of the city, like in the slums, and you're looking at the city, it looks amazing. Although there's kind of a bit of smoke and mirrors there with that as well. The main story I felt was pretty good. The beginning, the first few hours of the story felt really good, and it felt like everything I was doing was really impactful, and that it was really shaping up what the game was going to be and getting towards how it felt. And it felt like every decision I made a change in how the story was going to go. Most of the secondary quests are really good. Great opportunities to learn about the different characters like Pan Am. You got this Detective River. You got Judy. There's a lot of different characters that you can learn about. There's different ways that the characters progress, and you can see that as the story unfolds, as the secondary quests unfold. The general game music I felt was pretty good, although it gets kind of lame after a little bit here in the, because they got like this cue for music whenever you're doing combat, and after you hear it about 20 or 30 times, that gets kind of boring, but that's neither here nor there. It felt good when I first heard it, and it felt good for the first few times I heard it. Most of the characters are interesting, and they actually did a pretty good job with the character models themselves. Character models look very good for all the secondary characters, such as Pan Am, such as Detective River, Jackie, Judy, and it just goes on from there. A lot of the characters that you're going to interact with on a regular basis look great. And that being said, too, the characters that you interact with on a regular basis feel really impactful. Like Jackie, talking to Jackie and hanging out with Jackie, even though it's only for a short period of time in the game, he felt like a real live person that you were actually talking to and dealing with. Pan Am felt the same way, and there's a few others that feel that way. And generally, it was a good experience. And Keanu Reeves, I'm not going to cut him short. I'm not a huge fan of Keanu Reeves, guys. He's done some great movies over the years and stuff like that. He didn't make me go giddy like a schoolgirl when I heard he was going to be part of Cyberpunk 2077, but his stuff was great. There was moments where just talking to him pissed me off. There was moments talking to him made me laugh and made me kind of feel sad for him. And so everything that he done particularly felt impactful, just like it does with any of the other characters, such as Pan Am, Rogue, so on and so forth. I would say the driving is mixed. I did most of my gameplay with a controller, and for the most part, it felt fairly good, but it wasn't perfect either.
So what if she keeps things to herself? It's a skill in her profession.
With keyboard and mouse, the driving was pretty shit, to be honest. And the thing is, it typically is, isn't it? I don't know of any game out there that actually felt good playing it with a keyboard and mouse, and I'll always end up with a driving game or a game I'm going to do a lot of driving in, such as GTA or Mad Max, whatever, I end up going to a controller. So I'm not sure what that is. Maybe that's just a me thing. All my years of console gaming over PC gaming. The character level system is pretty good, pretty interesting how they did it. It's your typical RPG way of doing it. You gain experience and you get perk points and you get attribute points. Your attribute points you can pour into your core attributes. Your attributes from there on actually break down into different types of skills, such as crafting, hacking, assault rifles, pistols, swords, all that stuff. Now, when it comes to that secondary stuff, your stats, that stuff levels up as well, but it levels up by using it. So to level up your crafting, you have to actually craft stuff. Now, there is different things you can pick up in the world, like shards, that will give you XP towards those skills, especially towards the skills that you use less than other skills. I mean, my shotgun skill was pretty much maxed out for like 30 hours in the game because I specialized in a shotgun build. But when the game was over, I think I was only at like level 5 with my crafting because I didn't really do any crafting. I might have been level 6 at most, so I wasn't very far there. Okay, now the stuff I really wasn't fond of. One thing is the mini-map is just way too fucking small. Now, the mini-map works if you're doing on foot, sneaking through a building, or running down a street or whatever. But when it comes to the driving, it doesn't adjust the mini-map because you're driving. Like GTA, and I'm going to use GTA as the best example for this. So you get kind of a more zoomed-in map when you're kind of just running around, running and gunning people, whatever, on foot. And then when you hop into a vehicle, the faster you go, the more the mini-map will zoom out. I can't tell you how many times I missed a turn because it literally, I didn't know that's where I was going until I was right there on the mini-map. So the mini-map is just horrible. There is a mod out there to fix it, but I looked at the mod and right now it looks kind of wonky. So maybe if I do a future playthrough of this game, I will actually get that mod. Who knows? Maybe CD Projekt Red. Hopefully they hear what I have to say about it, and hopefully other people has actually complained about it, and they will adjust that themselves in the future, where if you get in a car or jump on a motorcycle, the mini-map will zoom out so you can actually see where the hell you're going when you're driving down the highway. Especially when this is a game that actually, believe it or not, you can drive. I drove almost 200 kilometers an hour. I believe it might have been kilometers. It might have been miles per hour, but I'm guessing it's kilometers in one of my cars. And, the car was really easy to actually control, but it's impossible at that speed to make that stop if you don't know that turn is coming. Bugs and glitches were just ridiculous. Guys, I could not play this game for more than a half an hour without a bug or a glitch of some type that would ruin this game. And you're only seeing a few of the glitches I had experienced in the footage for my review. It is unfortunate because there was a couple times that it was just like, yeah, whatever, no big deal. But then there was those times where it got me distracted and it broke the immersion. And if you're playing, my playthrough was 78 hours. And just basically every hour, the immersion of the game gets broken because of a glitch. That's not really helpful for the game one bit. Most of the secondary stuff is just crap. Now there's gigs. Some of the gigs aren't so bad because there's actual little bit of story, background information to them, whatever. Honestly, when it comes to doing that, the gigs, there's not. It's generally, it impacts you as the character, but it doesn't really impact the story whatsoever. There's also stuff like robberies in progress, things of that nature, and that just does not impact the game. It's just busy work. Honestly, it's just fat because there's just so much of it there, and it's another one of those things that it's like, I played the game for a couple hours, and then I started working on the secondary stuff. And, 30 hours later, I'm finally getting back to actually doing meaningful stuff in the game. And it was just so boring. and it killed the game for me.
No, you wouldn't understand.
A lot of another there's just real no impact either in your dialogue. I noticed that. Even the different types of characters I started a playthrough as a corpo. I really wasn't liking what I was seeing, and I went back quickly and remade a new character. I might have been about an hour into the game, made a new character, and ended up doing a nomad. The nomad playthrough was fun, and there were some dialogue options there specifically for the nomad. But the fact there that I was playing the nomad made real no impact on the game whatsoever. There was very few dialogue options that were impactful because I was playing a nomad. NPC AI is absolutely worthless in combat. I was seeing them doing all kinds of different shit. I couldn't even read the AI. It was there was some of the AI was trying to be tactful, but it was useless. Some of the AI would literally just stand there looking at you, holding their gun and not doing anything. Some of the AI would just go into a T-pose and do nothing. You get AI running into buildings, and though I've seen AI that literally they put their weapons away and just stood there. They would get behind cover and then decide to run out in the open. It just all kinds of really weird stuff the AI did. And man, I've seen better AI in every game but this one. This game has some bad AI, especially when it comes to the combat. Explosions are an insta-kill. That drove me fucking nuts. I don't know how many times I died from explosion. You know, I'd be like a level 50 character, max hit points, you know, over 700 hit points, and I would die from an explosion that was 10 feet away. Now, of course, I could throw grenades at the NPCs, and I would need like 10 grenades to kill an NPC, but, you know, an explosive barrel would be... an explosive barrel from 10 feet away was enough to kill me. I don't know. I could jump off of a fucking skyscraper, land on the ground, lose maybe 100 hit points, but God forbid I stand next to an exploding car. There's real no need in this game to have any strategy either. Basically, once I figured out that I could just bulldoze my way into combat, that I could just, like, you know, load up my shotgun or load up my AR, I could just bull rush in, and believe it or not, that was more effective than anything. Was just bull rushing in, because it would just catch the NPCs by complete surprise. The total lack of immersion in this game, and I don't think it's actually the game itself is not immersive, because there is those moments of the game that is really immersive, but the secondary bullshit that's in the game breaks the immersion. The glitches in the game breaks the immersion, and honestly, when you start getting to the point that you realize that, hey, wait a minute, no choices I'm making is actually having an impact of what's going on in the game. The different tasks I'm doing, these busy tasks like these assault and progress, is not really making an impact in the game whatsoever. Outside of what it's doing for my character, I really started to losing my immersion and actually became even more bored with the game. Driving absolutely sucks with keyboard and mouse. I've talked about that. Not really going to touch that too much again. I did actually have some performance issues, and I definitely should not have had performance issues. And they weren't constant. The weird thing is they were only constant in like one area of the map, and I believe it's Japantown. So it's just really weird. And it was no matter what time of day it was no matter how many cars was on the highway, it was just always that same area. I want to say about the center of the map, but I could be mistaken. And I did mean multiple times to try and get some recordings of that and just could not do it. The wanted system is absolutely shit. Folks, I messed around with it just before I did this, just to see. They have a warrant star system, very familiar to GTA. You know, you shoot a civilian, you get a star, or hit a civilian with your car, you get a star. You kill a cop, you get like 2 stars. You kill 100 cops, you got 5 stars. And here's the problem with that. Cops don't come in cruisers chasing you down. They don't chase you down while you're in your car. They chase you down on foot, so it's easy to get away from them. You're wanted no matter how many stars you have. You're wanted for about a whole 30 seconds. Once you clear your line of sight with the police, it quickly degrades how quickly you're wanted, and it doesn't degrade the amount of stars. It pretty much goes from, oh my God, you're wanted by the whole country, to you're not wanted at all in like 30 seconds. It's pathetic. It's laughable. Now the cops, they are badass, so you really don't want to get in a fight with the cops. I tried to, and you know, I was using some OP weapons that not even Adam Smasher could really withstand, which is like the final boss of the game. And the cops were just like laughing it off like I was shooting with pellet guns, okay? So don't mess with the cops, but the warrant system just flat out sucks. The wanted system. Can't shoot while driving. It would have been nice to do some drive-by shootings, maybe like, you know, if there was an assault in progress along a highway or something, just drive up and just start mowing them down with like an AR or an Uzi or something from the driver's seat. It would have been so cool to do that. So it felt kind of disappointing. Or even like I used motorcycles, so that's another one that would have been cool, just to like, you know, jump on top of a motorcycle and just come flying in and just start gunning people down with all while on the motorcycle, and it's not there, and it feels bad, man, that there's no type of combat like that in the game, especially for how much you do driving, and especially for how much it's been in other games such as GTA. GTA is literally just one of them. There's mods for Fallout New Vegas that let you do that, and so on and so forth. So it felt kind of disappointing that there's really no vehicle type combat. There's a couple moments where you're riding as a passenger in a car, and you get to do some shooting, and then there's the moment with the Basilisk, which is like this hover tank that's really cool, and it's got an autocannon and missiles and all kinds of stuff like that. Unfortunately, the tutorial is actually longer than the actual missions that you use the Basilisk in, but that's neither here nor there. I found tons of sound glitches in the game that would also throw the immersion of the game off. I'd be walking down the street and I could hear my feet on the sidewalk, on the pavement, and then suddenly it would just disappear. I would be on phone calls with people and suddenly the phone audio would just cut out. I would be standing in front of somebody, getting dialogue, asking questions for a mission and suddenly the audio would just cut out. The dialogue would just cut out. And that kept happening on and off throughout the whole game. And that was just another immersion breaking instance right there. That just kills the music, kills the game. The radio music, honestly, I didn't like any of the radio music. That's here nor there. I mean, you could always just shut the radio off and do your own thing. And some people probably did like it. Personally, I didn't. It was just background noise. Let alone the weird thing is I turned all my audio down except for radio music, and I had that all the way up, and I could still barely hear the radio. So that was also weird in itself, that my radio was at 100%, all my other audio was turned down, and I could still barely hear it. Enemies don't scale. You can either take this for what it is. I felt it was alright that the enemies did scale personally, because then, you know, after doing all kinds of leveling up, gaining skills and all kinds of stuff like that, I was able to boss up on people. But some people might find that not so appealing. And a lot of games nowadays that are RPG based, similar to this, the enemies scale to you. So it was unfortunate not to see that. And I think it would have made the game a lot more interesting, because basically I got to a point where when I reached level 50, basically level 40, unless I was standing next to an explosive barrel, I was God. I was a bullet sponge for the enemies. They had nothing on me. So it would have made things, I would have had to doing a lot more thought processing, thinking a lot more tactfully and things like that when going into combat against the NPCs. NPC driving is pretty horrible. There'd be moments where you'd be watching a car drive down the highway, and all of a sudden you'd start swerving back and forth and things like that. And the NPC pathing in general was just pretty bad. Even the civilians would be walking down the street and just suddenly start walking circles like, oh God, what was I doing? I don't even remember where I was going. What day of the week is it? Did I even wear underwear? And I don't know how many times I've said about dialogue choices just don't feel impactful to the game. And basically half the dialogue choices is just worthless. Now, that being said, I know I ragged pretty hard on Cyberpunk here. From what I see of the game, it is pretty interesting, and essentially a lot of it is if they go through and they actually remove the biggest chunk of the bugs. Not even just, I'm not talking like generally like the graphic glitches, but like the failures of the NPC AI, especially the NPC AI in combat, the moments where you're having dialogue with someone and the audio, the dialogue audio will just cut out. No other audio will cut out, just the dialogue audio will cut out. The moments where you're having a phone call and the dialogue audio cuts out, things of that nature. If they fix that kind of stuff, I could see where this could be a really great game. But what I see here is an absolutely overhyped, over-budgeted flop. I mean, this game, it feels hollow. And maybe if they add some more content, make some of your choices more impactful to the game, things of that nature, made it more interesting. It could be a really great game. I do see the makings of a great game here. Unfortunately, I'm going to sit here and tell you right now, Cyberpunk is available on Steam for $60, and I would not even fucking waste my money. I would buy other games over this game. Fortunately for me, I got it at a really good price. I got it for free. And honestly, with what I experienced in Cyberpunk 2077, I don't know if I will actually ever play this game again. I'm thinking I'm probably going to try and come back to this game a year from now, see what's changed, see what's improved, and maybe I'll revisit this game, and hopefully I'll be able to say, yeah, this game is great. They're finally brought through everything that they promised, but this game is definitely a disappointment. So if you got this game and haven't played it yet, don't fucking play it. If you're on the fence about buying this game, don't fucking buy it. Wait 6 months, wait a year, come get Cyberpunk, because it'll probably be a lot different, or at least not necessarily buy Cyberpunk, but revisit and see what's changed in Cyberpunk, and hopefully by then a lot has improved. I mean, at this point, the game hasn't been even out for quite 2 months yet since the game has been released when I'm doing the recording for this video. So they really haven't had a lot of time to do the bug fixes and that it really needs. But it definitely needs a hell of a lot more spit and polish. And they definitely need to do a lot more to make the game more immersive. Because honestly, the game just feels extremely hollow. And even when the game was over and I ended the main story, I did all the secondary stuff, I kind of sat there thinking to myself, I don't know what to think. You know, when I finished Skyrim, I felt an achievement that I achieved something in the game, or any other game for that matter. Kingdom Come Deliverance, Outer Worlds. You know, it just, the end of the game felt hollow, and I think it's mostly because it just the way the game is just killed the immersion so much for me. But anyway, folks, that is my opinion about Cyberpunk 2077. Take it for what it is. If you like the video, you like the video. If you dislike the video, well, personally, I really don't care, because that's my opinion about Cyberpunk 2077. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. And it just kind of feels disappointed to talk about the game in that kind of manner, but it is what it is. Anyway, folks, thank you very much for tuning in once again. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and have yourself a great day.